Morning guys, what's up? Hope you guys are having a good morning so far, and welcome to the channel again. I'm getting ready to take off to head down to Grand Lake for the first day of a Toyota Series practice down there, and sort of nice. I live about 2 hours away from the lake, so it's a little bit too close to stay overnight down there, and it's a pretty good drive in the morning. So I'm just getting up and getting ready to take Elijah to daycare, then drive down there for practice for the day. And I wanted to take a second to do today's video real quick. So anyway, I got thinking about it, and it's like, about things I like to fish in the springtime and some successes I've had in the springtime. And man, one of the most deadly techniques and the most fun way that I've ever fished was with these 3 topwater lures that nobody fishes anymore. They're just forgotten topwaters, and under the right condition, they can be unbelievably effective. And those 3, I'm going to go over each one of them. And sort of explain to you when I fish them and how I fish them and under the conditions. Let's start out with the first one, and it's the old Palomino. This bait. This is actually the bait that I started fishing with when I was wading my famous Turkey Creek back in down in Joplin. This is the bait I caught them on. Not this particular size. I used to use a little bitty 3-inch silver one on a spinning rod. But this for Palomino, I think, for you guys out there that have not fished that long, maybe you haven't fished it, but for guys like myself, this thing was a standby for so many years. It was one of the most deadly lures ever to come out in the 1970s. Everybody fished them, and they still work great. But at the times that I fished the Palomino, it's like, it's this time of year. All these 3 baits I'm talking about are for like right now when the water temperature is right around 60 degrees. And the Palomino is super deadly when you get those fish that are real close to bedding, real close to spawning, and you got them in real shallow water, in water visibility that's pretty clear, like water visibility of over 3 feet. You can get like in the back end of the coves, on the flat banks, back in some sloughs and ditches and that type of stuff. And you can throw this Palomino out there and just twitch it on the surface. Not fish it like a jerk bait, but actually just, you twitch it down, let it come up like that, let it set, twitch it down, let it come up, set like that. And it is unbelievably deadly. I mean, those big ones will come up and hit it on those calm days. I've had some great days in springtime fishing in Florida on this thing. All of the southern rivers, like on the Gulf Coast states, Pascagoula River, Mobile Delta, all those Delta type places that have marshy sloughs and stuff that go back in it. And I've had some great days here in the Ozarks on it, like on Table Rock, when you get those days when you see those fish up shallow cruising, and they're either looking for beds or they're bedding. I can go back in those flat bedding areas with this Rapala on those days where there's not any wind on the water, and just twitch this thing on the surface and have some great days. It's one of the most subtle baits that will catch big ones this time of year that I've ever seen. Okay, the next bait that I'm going to show you guys is sort of along the same lines, but from a little bit different conditions, and it's the old Devil's Horse. Now, this has been a Florida staple for years. If you guys watch Roland Martin's YouTube channel, he's always talking about the Devil's Horse. The Devil's Horse will catch giant bass in the springtime of the year. There's something about this thing that the bass, the big ones, will hit almost better than any topwater I've ever seen. It's the same situation with the Rapala. I mean, these 2 baits are pretty much in the same category. They're minnow baits. They're designed to be fished slow on the surface. The time that I like the Devil's Horse over the Rapala are on those situations and those days when it's a little bit it's just a little bit windier, it's a little bit darker out. For example, it's cloudy, it's rainy, it's windy, that type of stuff. When you need just a little bit more surface commotion, the Devil's Horse will really outproduce the Rapala in those situations. You can also cover a little bit more water with the Devil's Horse. The props on it, since it almost acts like a real subtle buzz bait, even though I don't reel it. I jerk it and stop it. Both of these props, will turn in those situations, and you can just draw those fish up in a little bit darker water, windier, or if it's a little bit deeper. But this is the same thing. I'm looking for those water visibilities that are over 3 feet for the Devil's Horse. Now, the third one I'm going to talk about is very similar again to the other ones, and it's the old shallow running Smithwick Rogue lure. And I've used this thing super effectively, the same situations I use the Rapala in. Most of the time, if I'm on this bite, like if this bite's going on, I've got both of these tied on. I've got the Rogue and the Palomino tied on, both of them. And the time that I like the Rogue a little bit different is, again, when you have a little bit more chop on the water. I'm not talking about like a pretty decent chop like the Devil's Horse, but just the wind is just barely rippling the water. And the time that the Rogue will work better than the Rapala is when those fish want that bait down a little bit more. So when I'm throwing the Rogue, it's like I'll twitch it where it goes under the surface, maybe 2 or 3 inches. Then I'll let it float up. Twitch it 2 or 3 inches, let it float up. And sometimes I'm just moving it, just popping it, boom, 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 boom. And it just sort of like wallows underneath the surface a little bit. For some reason, the Rogue will actually work a little bit better, like I said, a little bit earlier in the season, maybe if the water temperature is in the upper 50s, something like that. And I like the Rapala, like when that water is 60 or warmer, that type of a thing. But a lot of it is just the mood of the bass. I mean, when this bite gets on really good, I may have all 3 of them tied on and just match the situation. If the wind comes up a little bit, I'll put on the Devil's Horse, if it's bright and sunny out, no wind, or Rapala, and if it gets a little bit cloudy, I'll put on the Rogue, the shallow running Rogue. And the reason I like these 2 baits over a lot of different ones, like over some of the mega bass, these aren't really jerk baits, is these baits float up super quick. And a lot of the other plastic baits now, like the jerk baits we have now, they have a lot of tungsten balancers in them. And these don't. These are hollow, plastic baits. The Rapala's ball, so they float up real quick. And that's what you have when that's what you need when you're twitching those baits on the surface. All 3 of these baits, I'm fishing on monofilament line. I'll throw the Devil's Horse usually on some type of a medium action bait casting rod, say with like 15-pound test mono on it, because it's a little bit heavier. But the Rogue and the Rapala, most of the time, or all the time, I'm throwing it on spinning tackle with a monofilament line, like 8 to 10-pound test mono. You can just get a lot better action with the bait. So anyway, give these guys a try, man. There's nobody fishes them much anymore. I don't see hardly anybody fishing them. I mean, these 3 guys, I have caught so many good fish. I almost won a FLW tournament on the Pascagoula River on these 3 baits, during the spring. Forgotten topwaters. These are big fish catching baits. They're not limit getters. I mean, they'll catch big ones. And now's the time to try them. I mean, if you're around 60 degrees out there in the body of water you're fishing, tie one of these on, get in the back of a cove, twitch it around a little bit, and I think you'll be surprised what you see on it. So anyway, today's tip, just a little bit of nostalgia from the past that still works. And I'm going to get down to Grand Lake. I'll keep you guys updated, let you know how practice is going down there. And thanks for tuning in, and we'll see y'all later.